Welcome back to Hypixel Skyblock Ironman mode. As you may have guessed from the thumbnail, we'll be getting the DR-X655 today. It's the second best drill in the game, only behind the Devon's drill. The most noticeable improvements here are in the base speed and fortune, with 400 more mining speed and 50 more mining fortune than the DR-X655. But there's two other things to note: the extra mining gemstone slot and the increase in rarity from epic to legendary. The former can contain a jade, amber, or topaz gemstone, and while the extra fortune would be nice, I'll definitely be throwing topaz into it for the pristine. The latter makes all existing gemstones and the lustrous reforged stronger. Obviously, such a powerful drill is not without an egregiously expensive recipe. You need 1 flawless ruby, 30 corleonite, 5 refined diamonds, 32 refined titanium, 16 gemstone mixtures, and 10 mithril plates, which itself is composed of a bunch of different stuff. Thankfully, you might remember from my previous episode that I already have the 30 corleonite, plus I've got a lot of leftover ruby from the fiestas, so those are both sorted. I do have several thousand enchanted mithril sitting in my sacks to forge, but that won't be enough for the 50 refined mithril I need. The next priority will be getting all the golden plates I need, starting with 10 refined diamonds. Since the recipe also calls for 5 refined diamonds, I'm just going to go ahead and grab all 15 here. It's never been quicker to mine diamonds after all. There we go. I'll throw these in the storage for now. The quick forge perk should be buffed. I hope that's not an unpopular opinion. Hell, honestly, I'm not sure the forge should exist at all. You can have all the materials for something and be forced to just sit on your ass for days on end. Gold is even easier to mine and mass than diamonds. Less profitable? Yes, but I can get up to 600 enchanted gold a minute, so 20 enchanted gold blocks is a piece of cake. In fact, I got so lost in the gold sauce that I made 28 instead. Ah, glaciite jewels. 10 golden plates means 50 glaciite jewels. That's wonderful. I also forgot to activate the perk that gives me 30 magic find on mining islands, which only slowed this down further. Why don't we pass some of that wasted time by answering your questions that you sent in on the Q&A community post. First up, alright, you know what? Answering questions was terrible, awful, no good idea. Also, Cooper Cup is completely washed now. That guy is a one-year wonder. Anyway, it took a good while, no thanks to the perpetual competition from people killing glaciite walkers for the commission. Woo, more mithril! Here's another easy one: 10 enchanted iron blocks for the plates. My iron route is a little unrefined because I almost never mine it, but it didn't take too long nonetheless. Now to the harder part: mithril and titanium. Like I said, I've got a solid mithril stockpile, but my titanium stockpile is basically nil, and that's what I'll be targeting, starting with just enough to be able to make the 10 refined titanium for the plates. Every now and then, a gourmand would come around and I'd switch mining spots for it. I still need enough mithril powder to be able to match the mining speed, fortune, spread, and titanium and sanium perks all at the same time. I found a Jerry Sheen gun during this, which is cool and all, but it's not really an amazing weapon for me. It's more of a utility for floor 7. In total, all this mining allowed me to increase my enchanted mithril stock up to over 5,000. As a reference, 50 refined mithril requires 8,000, and I brought my enchanted titanium stock to 207, or about a third of all the titanium I need. Claiming mithril is going to become a recurring theme. Can you tell? Can you tell yet that half this video will be spent in the forge? Since the smelting process will be lagging behind for a good while, I went over to the glaciite tunnels to get the materials for 16 gemstone mixtures. Here's the recipe, in case you forgot, which you probably did. I started with sapphire, then moved on to jade, amber, and finally amethyst. Let me tell you, it was nice only having to gather 64 of each fine gemstone instead of 160 like was necessary for the armor of Devon. With all my infinity stones assembled, nope, we're back at the forge. Alright, yeah, no, that doesn't screw with my momentum or anything. Alright, for real now, I need to get 5,120 sludge juice. It's not a huge deal, I got more than double that for the armor set. Someone mentioned the last time I did this that I should open the treasure chests because they can contain sludge juice, which is true, but keep in mind the opportunity cost. The more time you spend opening chests, the less time you spend mining. Unless you get exceedingly lucky or your mining spread sucks, you're probably better off just mindlessly holding left click with a jungle pickaxe. Praise be to the Crystal Hollow sack, this would be infuriating without it. Here we are, the final refined mithril. Now I can start up the refined diamonds that I've had the materials for about 3 days. With sludge juice mining comes a lot of spare enchanted hardstone, which I used to make 35 concentrated stone for 4 silences, enough to bring my titanium drill to efficiency 10. I had no use for the other 2 really, so I just threw them onto the jungle pickaxe. And back to the forge we go. This time I can fill in every slot with refined diamonds. Jerry brought about Cole's perks, and that happened to include a mining fiesta. I decided to forego grinding glossies and use the 2 drops to get more mithril and titanium. Its plus 75 mining wisdom also catapulted me up to mining 59, one short of maxing out the skill. This was by far my best opportunity to get the mountains of titanium I would need, so I kept at it until I found myself at 538 enchanted titanium, equivalent to 33 refined titanium. Right here is almost the last of the refined diamonds. I just need to forge a couple more. I was also able to start up the first half of the golden plates I'll need. This begins the stretch where I took a break to do some very important things. The what? No, I didn't take days off just to play Deltarune. What are you talking about? Anyway, while this forge footage runs, let's answer another question from the community post. Marcela Quintesencia asks, how do you keep yourself motivated through long grinds, like Heart of the Mountain XP, drill materials, and keys? Well, in my case, I have the external motivation of needing to do so for content, but really it comes down to thinking about what I'll be able to do with the outcome of a long grind. Will it make something in the game easier? Will it unlock something really cool or strong? I hone in on what that thing is and keep it in mind while I do the grind. At least that one was a real question, and can you believe that it didn't even cover half of the forge footage I recorded on this break? Hell, just look at how long it took for me to get to forging the mithril plates. Eons, a millennia, a long period of time. That's it for drill resources, so while we wait, I'll be diving into talisman grinding. Magical power is extremely important, and I've neglected it for too long. I'll be using the missing talisman calculator, which you can find on a variety of Skyblock Discord servers, to hunt down various talisman. Some might be cheap to buy, but that doesn't necessarily make them super easy to craft. My first target is the Night Vision Charm, a common talisman that grants permanent night vision. That doesn't matter, but the magical power sure does. It's made up of 8 enchanted red and brown mushrooms, which is simple. Getting the collection? Not quite. I don't have the garden level to farm mushrooms over there, so I had to manually grind mushrooms on the farming islands to reach collection level 7. By that point, I had enough to make like 5 if I really wanted. Next in line is the Farmer Orb, an easy uncommon talisman outside of the enchanted glowstone it needs. Luckily, my mining setup is goated as hell, so grinding glowstone, while inefficient, ultimately didn't take a very long time, allowing me to make it and secure another 5 magical power. Don't tell anybody, but I've neglected to upgrade my personal compactor from the 5000 for like 10 episodes. Not only have I lost out on my free magical power, but I've had to inefficiently switch out enchanted items. No longer. With 20 enchanted redstone blocks, I upgraded my 5000 to the 6000. Next is the Piggy Bank Talisman, featuring an uncommon rarity and a somewhat useful ability that saves your coins after death. I don't always have a booster cookie running, so it'll probably come in handy one day. I did not have the collection level yet, so I killed a bunch of pigs for enough pork chops to set up a tier 3 pig minion, and I'll let this thing get me enough for the accessory. Here's a talisman you should all target far sooner than I did, the Personal Deleter 7000. Not only is it good for keeping unnecessary items out of your inventory, but it's also one of the cheapest legendary talismans in the game. All I need is 7 enchanted iron blocks to upgrade to it from my 6000. As an added bonus, since this is my first legendary, it's also the first time I can apply an enrichment. I chose the Magic Find enrichment, but keep in mind that this one will be removed in a future update. This next talisman requires taking on Guildford's races in the Dungeon Hub. Each time you complete every time objective for a specific mode on a certain route, you're rewarded with a talisman or talisman upgrade, starting with the cat, then Lynx, and finally Cheetah Talisman, an epic accessory. It's all quite easy once you know the route, and if you have a lot of mana. I recommend either using a mana set here or getting the sided ability for the extra intelligence. It'll save you some time. I was able to breeze my way through each race, earning the easiest 12 magical power of my life. This marks 42 refined titanium that I've had to forge for the drill, some of which is now going towards 7 more mithril plates on top of the 2 I just claimed, so I'm 1 shy because Hypixel decided to stop at 7 forge slots for whatever reason. Next up, the Chumming Talisman, another uncommon accessory that grants +1 fishing wisdom and +1 fishing speed. To get it, you give 32 full chum buckets to Moby here in the Glowing Mushroom Cave. The most difficult part here was actually grinding the glowing mushrooms to buy the empty chum buckets, because during all my worm fishing from previous episodes, I already accumulated the 320 chum I would need to fill up the buckets, so that's another pretty easy accessory. Let's stick with the fishing theme for a little longer. There's 3 upgrades I want to get here at the Bayou. The Junk Artifact, an upgrade to my current Junk Ring and purchased with an old leather boot. The Speedy Line, a rod upgrade part that gives an extra 10 fishing speed and is purchased with 8 busted belt buckles. And a Luck of the Sea Sits book, providing a little bit of extra treasure chance in exchange for 16 rusty coins. While I technically am targeting all of these at the same time, the rusty coins are by far the most likely drop. In fact, here are roughly the drop chances for all 3 item types I need at my treasure chance, although in reality the rates are actually lower because sea creature chance rolls before treasure chance does. Predictably, I got the 16 rusty coins first and purchased Luck of the Sea Sits, tossing it onto my challenging rod. While fishing for the other items, an alligator sea creature propelled me to Lily Pad Collection 7, finally allowing me to upgrade my challenging rod to the Rod of Champions with my stockpiled lily pads. This rod provides 15 more fishing speed, another 2% sea creature chance, has an aquamarine gemstone slot, and a higher rarity, making the Trashy Reforge more effective. Alright, back on track. I'm hunting down the 8 belt buckles and the old leather boot, either of which will probably take a very long time, so why don't we answer another question? Oh, I got the boot, not 6 minutes into the recording. Okay. I promptly upgraded my junk ring to the artifact, which should make it a bit easier to get the belt buckles, so I'm quite happy I got this one so soon. Well, in theory at least. The buckles ended up taking quite a long time, although I did receive an early Christmas gift from myself in that I already had 4 of them sitting in my fishing sack from a while back. While grinding for the remaining 4, I reached another lily pad collection level and could craft the healing ring for some extra vitality. Boy was I stupid for finding this slow though, just you wait buddy, it's about to get way worse. I also dropped a calcified heart from a banshee, a solid fishing armor reforged that I put onto a piece of my diver's armor. Back at the forge, I claimed 7 mithril plates, then set up the final one along with 6 gemstone mixtures. I'm very close to having everything I need. I waited out this set of forge items and then threw mixtures into every single slot. There's still much to do in the time this will take. It's time for the toughest grind of this entire video, the Turbo Fishing Net. This is a hunting tool upgrade that requires 32 flex bones, 128 sturdy bones, and 32 enchanted sea loomies. I'm getting it so I can hunt shellwise turtles for their absolutely incredible attribute that, when matched, nullifies all knockback from enemies. Knockback pisses me off to no end, so I'm very happy to be getting this. It's essentially as if you had a dwarf turtle shellmet perpetually active as a second pet item. I'm starting out with the flex bones, which were undoubtedly the longest part of the grind, lasting hours upon hours upon hours. Although the Tomb Floodway has no sea creatures, and it's supposedly a 1 in 8 chance from good catches, my luck was pretty bad throughout. So why don't we speedrun through every remaining question from the Q&A post while this sped up footage runs. Bold Chicken 8910 asks, which variant of trophy fishing do you think you'll start first? To be honest, I've given it very little thought, and trophy fishing won't make an appearance on this channel for a long time, but I will probably start in the Blazing Volcano. Valashov, I may have butchered that, asks, what's the worst grind you have experienced yet, or know you will experience later on? So far, it's probably been worm fishing for gemstone chambers, because it's tedious, I've dumped hours and hours into it, and I'm still only 1/3 of the way through. As for what I'll experience later on, I would say getting the Devon's alloy. Nucleus runs take a long time to prepare and execute, and I could potentially go through hundreds before getting it. And finally, Striz asks, what about the game do you still find fun? Tough one. I suppose the game always has something to work towards, something to accomplish, whether it be an item, a skill milestone, the ability to do a certain activity efficiently, and accomplishing things is very fun and rewarding, as it should be. It does mean that when I approach a point in the game in which it stops being about meaningful accomplishments and starts being about min-maxing every little thing, I will probably not continue. That concludes the questions and answers, and despite all that, and this clip running at 250% speed, I have 1 flex bone. Alright, let me just... And 32. You're welcome for cutting out all the garbage I went through. Next, I headed over to the Stride Ember Fissure to hunt Strider Surfers for these sturdy bones and for their attribute that increases damage against magmatic mobs. This did not take nearly as long, safe to say. I was able to handily get 128 of the bones and match the attribute, although for some reason I didn't siphon the shards. And lastly was the 32 enchanted sea loomies, which were just a tedious pain in my ass in which I had to server swap like a dozen times, but hey, I got it done. With every material now acquired, I crafted the turbo fishing net and got straight to work on hunting shellwise. It required a bit of lobby swapping, but it's otherwise a pretty simple hunt, one that I highly recommend you all do the second you're able. I also hunted spikes here in the same area, because their attribute is almost equally nuts, making your hits deal extra damage after being hit. This will be great for slayers. Hey, remember that pig minion I set up about 60 clips ago? Well, it's given me enough now to craft that piggy bank. My magical power now sits at 338, a good 60 or so up from what it was at the start of the episode. At long last, I claimed my final gemstone mixtures and forged the DR-X655, only one upgrade short of the best mining tool in all of Skyblock. This is what I played the game for. Now to unlock its gemstone slot, I put the drill to work mining amber until I could craft a flawless gemstone, which took no time at all. I then shifted to mining topaz for 2 flawless gemstones, one to unlock the slot and another to place in the slot. I already had the flawless jade in my e-chest from something, I don't really remember what I was going to use it for, but it doesn't matter now. Easy 1.6 pristine. I then dived into diamond mining, which was subtly more powerful with a new drill, until I got enough coins to purchase Jacobus's accessory bag upgrades up to the point where he gives you the Jacobus Register, a legendary talisman. As with the personal deleter, I put a magic vine enrichment onto it. My magical power will end at 354, and because I was so close, I kept mining diamonds until I hit mining level 60, finally maxing out the skill and also serving as my very first fully maxed skill of the series. I'll end the video with a payoff to something that's been running since the first couple episodes. These ice minions have sat idle for months, long enough to give me about 100 enchanted packed ice that I promptly used to craft a frozen scythe, which will come in handy once I get a full wise dragon armor set. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time for whatever the hell I decide to do.